most of us as men in church, I know somebody said earlier that, men feel down and then they feel beaten up in church and all of that. Don't worry, I'm not going to beat you up today. At least not too hard. No, not really. But the point is this. I mean, you can take it as instruction or admonition, or you can take it as beating up. But the truth of the matter is that from what we read here, it shows that men have an incredible responsibility. That if they dull, if they sleep, what usually happens is that it has fatal consequences. And I deliberately said to you that when the instruction was given, to be honest with you, when we were reading it, it sounded boring. Take a lamb, do this, do blah, blah. The man will go, look, man, what else is there? Is there football? Is there this? Is there that? And then, but he did not understand that it is to the degree to which they comprehended and corresponded or aligned with the instruction that would determine the level of protection of their family. And that simple instruction was what protected them from the hand of the enemy. Listen to this, and listen to this very clearly. Many problems in church don't need the pastor. They require a priest in your own home. Did you hear what I said? 90% of the problems that you are facing does not actually need the pastor. That when we say, when we go to, let's go and see the pastor. Yeah. It requires, no, not the pastor. It's not the pastor's business. It actually requires what? A priest in your home. The reason why many pastors are dying and falling into scandal is because of a lack of priests in people's homes. I don't think you are understanding what I'm saying. Why? Because what is happening is that what a man who should have become a priest should have handled. You see, when you're handling it in your family, it's just you dealing with it. But think of the accumulation of the many, many things that have not been dealt with, that every Sunday and everything is being brought to the pastor of the church to deal with. Why? Because the man refused to man up in the spiritual. Don't worry, it gets better. You'll get encouraged. Don't worry. I hope so. Last. Let me say this. Tomorrow, I'm going to be releasing a podcast video, and please, if you can, look at this. Look at it like me telling you to take a lamp and killing it, and put it on your lintel. It may sound boring, but please try and watch it. It's a podcast with myself interviewing Reverend Apostle Arome Osai's wife. I said, well, podcast by a woman, let me tell you why it's important. She tells within the podcast about a time in their marriage. They just got married and they lived in Makurdi. She thought she was going to enjoy her honeymoon and enjoy. Immediately after, he was posted to Lagos. First of all, to I think Kano for 3 years, then to Lagos. Anyway, for 15 years, they were apart. Him only coming once a month to the family. And at this time, they had started a church or something, whatever. And he just left her there to be leading the thing. And then she now discovered that in the area, there was a lot of witchcraft. But remember, who is the apostle? Not her. That's why you must be careful who you get married to. It's the women I should be saying this, but you too, because your wife may have an apostolic calling. Now, the point is this. People were dying, there was witchcraft in the area, and she just decided to start praying for 3 hours. For 3 days, fasting and praying. But during the fasting of 3 days, at the end of the fast, a young 10 to 12-year-old girl walks through her wall at night and warns her. Said, I am a witch and I was sent by, she mentioned the name of the whatever. He said, stop praying these prayers. Who gave you permission to be praying these prayers? We will deal with you. And so immediately she calls her husband in the morning and tells him that, one witch, he calls her by the name Omoge. He said, Omoge, what have you stirred up? So he said, what I said, I just decided to be praying against the witches in this area. These people are dying. Now, a very important principle there. That's what you call the principle of covering. Which means before you start certain things, make sure you have somebody you're accountable to. But he said, okay, it's okay that you started that thing, but you see, you must finish it. And he says 3 days will only wake the witches up and let them know that you are around and that they have a contender. That's why they warned you. He says that 3 days is not enough. He says you need to do it for 21 days before you can garner the strength and the power to actually deal with them. The 3 days just makes you aware of them and them aware of you. The 21 days gives you the prayer power and the authority to deal with them. Some of you are looking at me when you're like, oh, well, I don't deal with witches. You'll be surprised. The only reason that you don't know is because you have not entered the 3 days yourself. Is this making sense? Now, my question to you, or I guess the challenge is this, is that her husband was not there. Even though you and I know that Apostle is a strong man. But for whatever reason, by reason of work or whatever, the husband was not there. And as a result of that, the house was cannon fodder. His wife was cannon fodder. The children were targets, open target. Now, the joy of it all was that, okay, she was able to stir up something, but then she had a husband who was a cover. I don't know if you're understanding what I'm saying. Yes. Was a cover. Somebody who himself has traversed that landscape and knows how to deal with those kind of things. If it was another man that she called her, say, why did you go and wake those people up? What's our business with the... I told you before, all these your prayers, blah, 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 blah. And say, stop that prayer now, stop that prayer. But she's already woken up the witches. They know about her, they also know about you. and they know you are that you're afraid of them. And so you know what they will start doing? When she wants to start rising in prayer again, they will come and torment you and say, look, you better warn your wife. What am I saying? Can I talk to you? I'll tell you some real stuff. So there's a lady who, again, I've known for many years. I know the family. I'll say this with a lot of care too. Her daughter comes to this church. So there are many things. She tries to reach me, but she said it was difficult reaching me. So she said she reached out to somebody else, her brother's pastor. And the pastor now told her to go on a 50-day fast. Yeah, praying every night for 1 hour. And she now said on the 10th day, she called me for something else. And after I discussed what she now said, by the way, this is what happened. And on the 10th day, some things visited her. And they started trying to deal with her, this and that. So I said, oh, okay. Well, you know what? Good. It means your prayers are working. And whether or not you were aware of it before, they were there. Is this making sense? I'm being careful what I say here. But her husband is a great guy, really great guy, actually nice and wealthy guy. Yeah. But she doesn't live in the same country with me. Thank God she had somebody to speak with her. What am I trying to say to you? Listen to this. It's called the power of covering. And the power of covering is such that the reason why God will allow her reach me, and I'm usually unreachable, is because there's nobody else there. God's ideal plan is that you will be the one, first of all, you are the one steering the thing and pressing in. Apostle Arame's own is not that it was just that he was not in that location. He's a master. He was dealing with the ones in Lagos. And then he now began to train his wife. When we talk about priesthood, we are talking about the fact and protection and even provision, because there's a dimension of the physical provision. There are certain things that will just dry up. Jobs dry up, and you are wondering why. Or certain people begin to die in a family or in your spouse's family, and you're like, what do we do? And then you run to the pastor. It's not the pastor's job, it's your job. The Bible speaks about it in the book of 2 Kings chapter 4. Who remembers it? 2 Kings 4. It says, this woman runs off to, is it Elisha? And he said, my husband, your servant, is dead. And he says, what? He says, and what? You know that your servant did what? Feared the Lord. And the creditor is coming to take my 2 sons. This is a picture of a woman without priesthood covering. Her husband was a prophet, but something killed her husband. Remember, I started with the story of the guy who worked with me, great guy. But it doesn't matter how great you are. I don't think he was probably 52 or 53. But this is what she says. Please go back there. Go back to the last picture. It says, my husband, your servant, is dead. And then he says, and he feared the Lord. The fear of the Lord is not enough. You know, women usually say, what kind of man do you want? They say, a God-fearing man. Then they will say, then a man with a job. The God-fearing is like standard so that he won't cheat on meat. But you need more than a man who will not cheat on you. You need a priest. It says, and what? The creditors are coming to what? Take my 2 sons to be his slave. Listen to this. All Satan is trying to do is to take you out so that he can take your children into slavery. Listen to that. When I say take you out, the physical death is the eventual resultant effect. Okay, but you see, you can also be alive and spiritually dead. And when you don't rise in priesthood, are you here? When you don't rise in priesthood, listen to this. There are many of us that our children have already been taken by pornography and perversion. Listen to this. The things I'm talking about here are Satan doesn't play. I've been a pastor for very long, and I've dealt with many people who their children, 11-year-old, 9-year-old, they're exposed to pornography, exposed to perversion. There was one place I went to go minister. I used to, well, let me be careful what I say. I ministered there regularly, and one year, the little boy, I don't think it was more than 13, 14, while I was signing my books, was shaking like this. He said, Pastor, please, help me. I was like, help me. And he had a lot of eczema and all sorts of things. And I was like, what do you mean? I took him to a corner and he said, I have an addiction to pornography. Little boy. He told me the number of times he watches it and masturbates every day. And during the prayers and all of that, the manifestations were strong and all of that stuff. And I just thought to myself, the first thing I thought, because his mother was there, yeah, where is the father? Look at your neighbor and say, is there a priest in your house?